Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How has everybody been? It has been quite an evening, ladies and gentlemen. Staying up to this time of night can sometimes be trying, but it's all part of the sacrifice that I'm willing to do for you people. So, tell us how your week's been, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I think we've only got gents on at the moment. The ever-lovely Aurora in a bag, although I call her Aura in a bag, just for the ease of saying it, is not in at the moment. The obligations of adult life. Such is life, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so, what have we been painting? What have we been doing? What have we been up to? Because there is, of course, stuff that I have been working on this week. That is why I'm very excited. So I'm preparing myself, ladies and gentlemen, of course, to be raked over the coals, to be freshly grilled, you know, for all of you to just push me down, rub me dick in the dirt. Ho! We all know how cruel life can be. So, hey David, Andre, unproductive. Well, you know, Soap Dodger, I'm not quite going to count it in the same terms that you would, because what normal mortals call unproductive and what you guys call unproductive is two very, very different things. Because yeah, I saw what you've been working on, and yeah, I'm gonna call shenanigans on that. Alright, let's see, how are we going? So we can't quite get beyond 240 with the visual quality. I think that is just a case of the internet in Australia. Such is life. I may have to switch back to the secret bunker or find a different permanent solution. But, So, are you enjoying painting the Noblings? Andre 77? Or are they being a bit of a pox? You know, just... Are you a bit sick of them? I know when I come to thinking of Nurgle, some of the times it just makes me ill. How much you have to work with them. Makes me sore all over thinking about how much Nurgle stuff I've been working on. A lot of Infinity. Are you gonna end up painting up that that Gundam that you made, David? Or are you going to just go, it's done, it's got colours on it, I leave it, such is life? I don't know, is it Castellan Chrome? Because it's got an E on it, but I'm unsure if you're meant to pronounce it with the E or without. But I don't know how you would pronounce that. Crowy. But yeah, I'm just attempting to load myself full, just absolutely full to the brim with caffeine so that I can make it through this one. But I'm really glad that the weather has been on my side for a bit, because that means that I've actually been able to get some painting in, which has been good for me. Yeah, I would say you're right, Andrew. Yeah, well, I've always talked about how decals are a skill in of themselves. When I was talking about John's decals, which he's been working on with his Prosonians, I've been talking about how it is actually a skill to use decals properly. And see, I think it's very underappreciated, because the people who can do it properly do it really, really well, and the people who can't they just hate it. They just absolutely hate it, and you can see why. You know, it's pretty darn obvious why they see things the way they do, because it's like it just seems like it's either something you can do and it's pretty easy, or it's something that you can't do and just forget about it, you know? And that for me is very frustrating. But yeah, we've got a fair lineup on tonight, quite a few paint jobs. Well, I don't know, Soap Dodger. I saw the decals that you did for your thing. I thought that they were pretty damn good. Well, yeah, like I said, guys, I just think I just think it's a skill that you have to learn. There's no two ways about it. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to learn it, just because I just hate it that much. So we're going to get some painting in while we watch. What's the plan, gents? Oh, and side question, well, I know that you do, Davis, but do any of the rest of you have Skype? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting close to countdown time. Alright, gentlemen, it is time to begin. Just 10 seconds now. And here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the weekly WAYPN. I hope that each and every single one of you has been having an amazing weekend and an amazing week, but if you haven't, I'm here. I'm here for you, ladies and gentlemen. So, let us begin with By Redeemer. and sorry, by Dema. Is it? Yes. It's very strange the way these usernames are, and as we know, I'm never going to get a single username right ever. I think that that's something that we all have to come to accept now. Alright, so we have this absolutely beautiful tower model that he's been working on. So, I think that, yeah, he's saying that this is just a beginning. But one of the things that I note on this at the moment is just how pristine the white looks at the moment. I think that the weathering's coming up really nicely, and it's obvious that he's still working on the red and such, but it is nice to see how people go through things, and you can see why you'd want to work on the white first, because as soon as the white's done, you don't want to touch it at all, and the problem is that white is such an extreme colour, and once it's done, you want to be done with it. You don't ever want to go back to it. So that's pretty much the way it goes with white. And speaking of, I have been trying some myself this week, so hopefully we will be seeing a bit more of it, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so next up we've got Dark Redeemer up next, and just doing some of the good old zenith highlighting on these models and slowly making his way through the process. So hopefully we will see some more paint on these guys throughout our time here. But next up we've got my man Mage, and I do believe we get to see some of these guys with some basing and all of that done up on them, you know, fully done up. So I don't want to comment on them just yet, but one of the things that I do want to comment on is just how beautiful this flag is. You know, I think I commented on it last week, but just mwah, absolutely beautiful. I love the velvety, you know, sleekness of it all. It just looks absolutely phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. Just absolutely phenomenal. So hopefully we will see some more of that. Alright, next up we've got some Doug the Thug, and he's been out and about and getting some second-hand minis and attempting to put a bit more life into them. So he's got them all done up here with some new transfers, and they're looking pretty alright. And as I was saying just earlier in this stream when we were warming up, I was talking about how the whole transfer thing is a skill in of itself. And see, the reason I say that is, take a look at the way that he's put on the transfers around here, right? And one of the things that you'll note with a lot of transfers, that around the transfer there's often these watermarks around them. There's often these marks which, you know, show where the actual transfer paper is. That in of itself is a skill, but overall I think that this guy's looking pretty darn good, and it's obvious that what he's going for is just, you know, bring them a bit more into line with what he's got already. And I think wrong direction. I don't think I'm not too worried about the direction of the Raven Wing thing, but you know, I think it's more about making sure that you've got it as right as you can get it. I think, yeah, sure, it might not be in the right direction, or maybe they're from a certain company. Such is life. But I think overall all of these transfers have come off very, very nicely. I think that, you know, it's a bit... So yeah, if you take a look at the one here, you'll see what I'm talking about, but not as much to a degree as you'll see with some of the others. So you'll see that watermark that carries around it, and that is a particularly hard thing to get rid of when it comes to transfers. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, transferring is a skill in of itself, and do not ever underestimate how difficult, something is just because it's printed on something. Doesn't make any somebody any less skilled just for doing it that way. But yeah, I think that these guys have come up fairly nicely. I like the gemstone effect that he's done on all of their visors, particularly in here. That looks really nice. Like, I don't think that it is as good on the little indicator here as it is on this visor piece here. Also, I think that this kind of yellow, I think you either need to bring it into the yellows or back into the creams. And I think bringing it back into the creams is more the way to go for me. So, yeah. Hey, how are we? Yeah, so overall, I think it is looking pretty darn good. Hopefully, we will be seeing a bit more of it in a bit, and we'll be seeing some more of Davith. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, but yeah, there's that base that he was working on for it, and I think that it's come together really nicely, because the thing is, when it comes to basing, you absolutely do not want to have your base overpower the mini itself. I think that it's very difficult to actually overpower the miniature, but some people can do it. You know, I think that you have to go pretty over the top to do it. So hopefully we will be seeing some more from Davith in a minute or two. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, let us move on from Davith's piece, and we will make our way to Craig Douglas, not Core Douglas. Jeez, what is going on? Alright, Andre says, decals on spherical surfaces is quite hard. Decal softener helps, but you need some practice on this. Yeah, I think that decals are just difficult overall, like I said. But Craig Douglas, his piece, I really love it. So it's a continuation of some of the Primaris Marines that we've seen done in his candy blue style, in that very sort of pristine look that he's been doing with all of them. And so he's still got the thing going on with the naming convention that he's got, you know, the whole Roman thing, and he's got the little plastic letters for it. I really like the basing. I do think that the photo in of itself could have done with a bit of work, just mainly because it's flipped around a bit, and I think just sit it down, take a photo, man. I just don't understand this, guys, like, especially when you can see that he's put in so much work into this model. So you can see once again those beautiful transfers, and take a look at the white right here, ladies and gentlemen. Just absolutely pristine, right? I do, however, now, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, each and every week I always go over this, but you know, we never know who's new and who is watching. So the thing is, I don't just try and blow smoke, I try to give proper feedback, which does mean some critical feedback. I do think that these purity seals need a bit of work. The way they are at the moment, they don't have quite the level of depth that this in of itself does. Now see, some people may be looking at this and going, what depth? It's all... No, but see, it's a deliberate effort to make it look just absolutely pristine, right? Take a look at it. It looks so clean. It's obvious that it's meant to look that level of clean. But when we take a look at these, right, they just seem a bit out of place. They don't seem to have that same level of finesse. And I think that's because it's using a very old purity seal technique. And I think with just a bit of work on, say, for example, the script work, I think that that would come up a lot nicer. But yeah, I think that these this guy is looking very, very nice. And I also like one of those differences of kind with the red here, right? And it's not done in that same candy red style. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is an interactive show. So if you've got any comments, go ahead, give them in the chat, which is off to the side, and I will happily scroll back and tell everybody what is being said and what it is being said about. Alright, next up we've got Baron Von Uppercase, fantastic name, and he has been working on some more Mythic Battle stuff by the looks of things, and I want to say a big congratulations to him for his community golden button. So hopefully we will be seeing some more of these guys soon enough, but I want to say a big thank you to you for showing some of your works in progress, especially after such a phenomenal showing from your Mythic Battle stuff last week. Alright, next up we've got Lawn Ore, and he's been painting something very, very different. So he's been painting up some, is that Fires of War? Something of War. I know, Flames of War tanks. So I do believe these are 15mm, unless somebody's going to correct me. So I do believe that these are just works in progress thus far. But we see, here he is, faithfully watching the show, bringing a tear to this old man's eye. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's enough to make the heart sing. So hopefully the rest of you guys are getting an equal level of enjoyment out of it. Alright, next up we've got Ogre Blood, and this is one of the things that I'm pretty happy about because, like I said, I don't just try to give, you know, purely positive feedback. He's taken on some of the, you know, critical feedback that I've given to him, some of the critique that I've given to him regarding his wounds. So, at Calidors, once again, thank you for the feedback in your videos regarding the wound marks on the Marine's right arm. They were supposed to be puncture wounds from some sort of alien/chaos beast. The red dots are drips of blood from said wound. I have since gone back and added a gloss effect with saliva. I do think that that looks a lot better. I do think, however, if you want to sort of differentiate from the rest of the things, rather than, because I think when a lot of people see wounds on actual armor, right, they think that the arm within is completely wrecked, and so maybe with your next one, just drips of green or something like that, which will complement your yellow. But I do think that that saliva effect, whatever it is, just looks just so much better. Just so much better. I do think that you're trying to pull off a very, very difficult effect there. And yeah, so it's always going to be a bit difficult to get it all together. But yeah, and he's just showing us some of his works in progress, and we get to see how he goes through his whole process. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I always talk about how this is important because you get to get an idea of how people work through all of this, right? Now, some people, you know, start off with just the head. They'll just start off with the face and they'll get everything absolutely perfect. But the thing is, there's a lot of people out there who do absolutely beautiful work, such as our man here, right? But the thing is, you know, there's a lot of ways to do things right. You know, the old phrase, there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's true with painting too. You know, there is most probably some sort of pinnacle technique out there, but for the moment, I don't know what that is, and I'm not going to suggest that. I'm going to say, do what works for you. So thank you very much for that, Oakblood. And yeah, I think when you see it like this, I think it looks a lot better, that saliva effect, because when it's not as close up, it does look like something slimy and that sort of thing tried to take a bite out of him, but he's kept on fighting on. I think that way it looks a lot better. Some of the times with close-ups, they can be your best friend, but other times they can be your worst enemy. But yeah, this way, I think looks great. Looks absolutely phenomenal. Alright, and Calador2 just said, yes, I was correct. That is 15mm for the Flames of War. Alright. So Baron Von Upcase said, I just found the feedback for your videos you do in this. I didn't realise that basing would cause so much distress. Well, he'll learn. They'll learn. They'll all learn. But yeah, so hopefully we'll see some basing on those miniatures soon enough. Next up, we've got Brain Fowler, and he's been posting up some images of his guys from Dark Vengeance. So I'm going to see if we can get a bit of a better shot at these guys, because that's about as close as we can go. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to always bring this caveat up when I talk about white, but white is an absolute nightmare, ladies and gentlemen. Avoid it at all costs, unless you're a mental patient like myself. But when it comes to this sort of thing, I think like there's always gonna be a few difficulties. So right here, where he's got the purity seals, I think you really want to do them up in a cream/bone color to make that level of differentiation. I do find his color scheme really interesting, the clashing of the yellow and the blue. I think that that's come together all right, but it's a bit hard to tell at this distance. I do really like the way that he's done the edging of the black shoulder pad in blue to sort of give it that extra level of definition instead of the traditional grey that you'd use in that area, just to keep it in theme and to not sort of put the white off. So I think that's come together really well, and he's doing some works in progress of his Eldar. So the big thing I would say is that these bases definitely need something more on them. Maybe some barbed wire, maybe some ruins, that sort of thing. I think overall these guys have come up alright. I do think that the yellow wants some additional highlights on it, but other than that, I think that it's come up pretty darn good. And hopefully we will be seeing some more from Brain Fowler soon enough. Alright, and here we are. And here's the thing. When it comes to terrain, ladies and gentlemen, terrain can be a pain. And I think a lot of people have a lot of different approaches to it. I think that Brain Fowler right here has just absolutely smashed it out, right? Just got it done as quickly as humanly possible. But I think when it comes to these, I think the thing that these need is just a coat of wash over them. A coat of wash over them, and I think that they're pretty much done. I think that they're looking good. I think that they're looking fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with them. But I do think that a coat of wash would really bring these up a great deal, ladies and gentlemen. But, of course, you can disagree if you so desire. Or you can agree, but in a different way. or give up different yes, words. This is a live stream. Or give out different suggestions. Alright, so next up we've got some more from Brainfowler, and he's just testing out some of his different colour schemes for the guys and gals. Yeah, so I do find the yellow and blue to be a fairly interesting colour scheme. I'm not sure that yellow and blue comes off that great with the Bugman glow, you know, very sort of reddish skin tone. So yeah, I'm unsure as to how that's going to come together. But I think other than that, it's going to be fine. I do think, you know, maybe once we see a bit more paint on them, see, you know, a bit more work put into them, then I'll be able to give you a bit more of a solid opinion. I do think the blue and red has come together really well for the Escher guys. Next up, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Brushstrokes. Plus 19, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my good lord. Wow. Just wow. That, ladies and gentlemen. Well, you know, you win some, you lose some, and apparently it appears that he has lost out on this one, not gotten a community button. If there was ever a greater sin in life, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that we could find one. But I just want to I'm not sure that that would have worked that well. I just wanted to sort of show you guys this thing in action. Just show you it rotating around so that you can get a bit of a better picture for it. And I think that it looks absolutely amazing. Apparently the way that he did the cherry blossom leaves was with sawdust, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, you know, some colouring within that sawdust. But yeah, I think it looks just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. And I always love the way that he puts these things together. It does seem like a bit too much work for me, but I have been known to go mad myself on occasions and just completely forgo any level of sanity and just go absolutely nuts and just go hard in on some of these things. So I think, you know, I'm going to be keeping this as he's got on his Facebook. I think I'm going to be keeping this all tabbed up because this is absolutely beautiful what he ended up putting together. So very, very well done, Brushstroke, and a massive thanks, man. A massive thanks for sharing it with us. So he's shown us some works in progress pictures, but I do think the biggest thing for us is something a little later on where he actually shares his whole process of. So massive thanks, man. Next up, we've got yet another golden button recipient. Not quite at 19, but plus 12 is pretty darn good. Plus 13. Have I been forgetting to plus things? Oh no, ladies and gentlemen, that is very bad. So when I first saw these, I thought Cree rather than I thought Warrior Nation. But apparently this is a specific kind of people. So I really, really like a number of things about these guys right here. So who can guess the first thing that I absolutely love about these guys right here? I don't think anybody has any idea what I'm going to say, but you know, I'll throw it to the audience for just a moment, and see what it possibly is that I absolutely love about these guys. I mean, who knows? What could it be? Could be anything, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, well, enough of the fuss. We all know that it's the basing. This basing looks absolutely astonishing, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Soap Dodger. Yes, Calidors too. It is the basing. But yeah, so yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous the way that he's put it together. I think that the way that he's done up the skin on these guys and gals here looks absolutely beautiful. And yes, I know the pain of trying to get a thing in focus. But yeah, so I think that he's gone for just a pretty traditional, you know, put down the skin and then wash and then bring it back up sort of thing. But I think that it's come together really well. When you take a look at some of the work close up, you can see some of the stuff that he's done, you know, just doing that little bit more on the hands, that sort of thing, to bring them up a bit. I think that that's come together really, really well. As well as some of just it's just very, very neat, right? Taking a look at this in here, right? Taking a look at the edging right there. Just absolutely gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. Just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, just taking a look at these models, they're just done up so well. However, I do think that there are some things that need improvement. These blades right here don't look that interesting. Let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. They don't look that nice. I don't know what you could really do about something like that. There's sort of the same deal going on with the guns. You know, we've got these beautiful guys and gals, but these absolutely astonishingly boring weapons, except for the Chiefs ones right here. I think that they look pretty darn interesting. But yeah, like, I look at this basing right here, and it is just gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. The other thing that I look at is maybe putting a bit more color on these guys. They're very, very muted, but I do believe that that's a deliberate choice. But for me, I just want a bit more color on these guys to make them just pop that extra bit. Because, you know, just even having that little bit of red there, that's enough. It doesn't have to be over the top, just that little extra bit. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let us move on from these absolutely beautiful Warrior Nation people onto Nerves, and or Nevs, and he's been working on his Barbarian for Frostgrave, and it is looking pretty darn good. I really like the sort of Nordic skin tone that he's done, particularly Nordic skin tone in the snow. I think that that's come together really nicely. Also, he's been trying his hand at non-metallic metal, and I think that it's come up pretty darn good, but not so good that I didn't not recognize it right off the bat. See, just non-metallic metal, a lot of the time you take a look at it and you just think to yourself, wow, that's impressive. But it is a very much higher level painting skill, so I'm not giving him a hard time about it. But if he wants to improve his painting skills, that's where I think he should start. I do think that everything else is looking pretty nice. I do think that the fur is looking pretty basic, and I do think that the face needs a bit work, as well as the hair. But I think that it's come together to be a very, very nice looking miniature. It does look very Nordic. It does look quite nice, the way that he's put it together with these very muted colors, right? But he's still got some great color contrast, with the yellow in of the sword clashing against this green over here, and just against the purple of the skin tone. Very subtle, very nice. I think that there's a lot to love about this miniature right here, and I do think it's a good choice to not go in with the eyes, considering the size of the model. But yeah, great work with the detail, and of course some absolutely lovely basing. giving, you know, just that extra level of definition to the model, because I think the purple within the skin wouldn't make as much sense without the snow down here. So I think that's one of the things that I always talk about with this and the basing, you know, trying to make sense of the models in their context. Next up, we've got our man Soap Dodger. So I think I should take my time, shouldn't I, ladies and gentlemen? Have a quick swig. Alright, so after Calidor's feedback on the containers last week, I decided to take the plunge and add logos to my test pieces. The hobby log, or hog, is at the bottom of his post for more details. But yeah, I completely agree, and I do think that it is worth the effort there, my man. Like, they've come together. They've come together really, really nicely. I don't think that there's much that I can say in terms of what I try to improve, because like I said, doing transfers is a skill in of itself. So there's not much to say one way or the other there. I think with this one, it doesn't look as if these beams were as much a part of that transfer there as it does on this one. This one, it looks as if that, you know, is always been sprayed onto it, whereas it looks as if these beams have been put over it. But that's about as much, you know, constructive criticism as I can give, because I just think that they plain old look good. I think that they blended well into the paint jobs, and I don't think that there's much more that I can say on that. I do think that it has really stepped these crates up that extra level, and yeah, you know, like, honestly, I think if you made these all yourself and you could mass produce them, I am certain that there would be a market for them. So, Soap Dodger says, a different techniques. The top one is missing the small decals. I think I will be doing the bottom ones. Yeah, do the bottom ones for sure, man. I'm not sure the difference that you've done, but whatever that difference is, I do think that it has made a difference. And yeah, I think that it's come together really, really well. Also, these industrial stripes, yep, you've completely lost the plot. I know that I've said that before, but still. Alright, next up we've got Janice showing off some works in progress. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I have a feeling based off that. Oh, and I've best check these, because I didn't have the thumbs up on the other piece, so I need to make sure. Maybe I just completely missed that piece. Oh no, oh no. But yeah, so I have a feeling, based off you know, your guys' feelings, that you might enjoy this game right here. There's a chance that you might like this particular game and what Janice has been working on. Alright, so Soap Dodger says 7 decals on the bottom ones and 4 decals on the top ones. So I'm guessing with these ones you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and with these ones you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one's on the actual little strip across, and that's the difference. I figured that's what you were saying, but I wasn't 100% sure. So, you know, thank you very much for sharing this, Janice, and hopefully we will see these guys all done up soon enough. I know that we've seen something completely different done up, but hopefully we will see some more. Alright, next up we've got Fohammer, who's been working on Conflict 47 models. Now he's been doing up these, I do believe these are Marines? I'm unsure. Yes, some Marines for Conflict 47, and I think that they've come up really nicely. I very much love the basing with these guys, but giving that level of differentiation between the guys is really important when it comes to historicals, because you run that risk of everybody looking quite boring by being completely uniform. You know, they're all meant to be on the same side, but if these models don't have any level of individuality, I don't think you can have that level of attachment, that level of interest in them. So, you know, having the webbing on some helmets, that sort of thing. So I think that that's very nice. And I think that this basing is just absolutely gorgeous. But I tell you what, this guy right here has come together just beautifully. Take a look at that visor effect. Yeah, so Soap Dodger says Fohammer's stuff is looking amazing. Somehow the painting looks sci-fi. Yeah, I would say that with this it definitely does, but I'd say that it still looks somewhat naturalistic. It does look as if it's something that exists within this universe. It doesn't look that out there. But yeah, I tell you what, the way that you've done up those visors, just gorgeous. I absolutely love that. I think that just looks phenomenal. Also, I really do like the boulder edging. I think that the boulder edging does have a massive advantage when you're dealing with a bit smaller models, you know, because you want to get that level of contrast there, and you want people drawn to the model. But yeah, just absolutely beautiful there. I'm just trying to look at something which, you know, I can actually give a bit more critique on, because like I said, I'm not just trying to blow smoke with people. I do think this right here is a bit of a missed opportunity for giving a contrast of kind, but other than that, there's not a whole lot that I could really, you know, say on those things. These guys have been coming together absolutely beautifully. You know, great work on muscle definition for that size of model, and I love the spent shell casings there on the base. Just beautiful, just beautiful. Alright, and yeah, with these guys, it's more to do with just how well they're looking at that scale, and the fact that you've managed to, you know, give a bit of a sci-fi look to the ammunition right here, despite the fact that it is a very World War II looking era. Just those little extra bits really help bring it to life. Alright, and here we go. We see the Marines in power armor, and they're coming together just absolutely beautifully. But I would say, just little things like that you really want to clean up, because it's just like when you clean a house. If you clean a house and you make everything look beautiful, every single missed spot will make it look that much worse. So just clean up that tiny little spot there and you'll be fine. But yeah, these guys are looking just gorgeous the way that you've done them up together. You know, it's mostly that edging that really brings them up, but also I like the way that you've done that edging with the guns themselves, so that they're not just how to put it, they're not plain. I see a lot of people working with these sorts of things, and their guns often look extremely plain. And that's one of the big problems with these sorts of things. But yeah, these guys are looking absolutely phenomenal the way that you've done them up. Alright, I also love the camo pattern that you've done up on this helmet. I think that it's come together really nicely. But yeah, it's this spacing. I still look at this spacing and it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I think for the most part, these guys are just looking great. But I tell you what, take a look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That right there. I don't know whether that's a decal or whether, you know, okay, some freehand work. So that's freehand work there. That is incredible, my friend. That is absolutely incredible. There's not much more to say with that. I would, however, try and incorporate the terrain here to look a bit more like this area. You know, because I know that you don't want to take away from this right here, but just give that extra bit of realism to this, because you want them to be looking at that, but you also want them to be looking at the model in of itself. But yeah, just absolutely gorgeous, man. Absolutely gorgeous. You've done really well, and I think that you've really helped breathe life into your particular genre. So very well done. And now I best scroll up and make sure that I've actually thumbs it up, because apparently I've been missing those. Alright. So let us move on, and our next person up is Maldrake, and he's been working on some more plague models. So I find this one a particularly interesting model for the plague, you know, as it's got still parts of the other bits of guys within it, and the model in of itself seems very strange to me, but I do really like the way that he's done it up, giving great contrast of kind, and the way that he's done the snout up, you know, as if like this thing's been overtaking whatever it is that it has become. And I very much like the contrast of kind between, you know, this very sort of fertile place and this sort of plague-addled creature. So I think that looks really good. I do, however, think that, you know, with these bits of horny stuff on the back, I think that you most probably wanted to go a bit smoother on them, you know, not use the same sort of dry brush technique that you have on the rest of the model, because I think you want that difference of kind once again with that compared to the rest of the model. But yeah, so I think that they're looking pretty darn good, but that I think is pretty much it. I do like how you very much got that great difference right here with the exposed muscle and that. I can see that you've been doing a bit of work on the eye. Hopefully we'll be getting a close-up shot. No. But yeah, just absolutely phenomenal work with the differences of kind, you know, having those things incorporated within this and going that extra level to make sure that you've got that contrast of kind, not just with the creature in of itself, but you've been using this base for all of them, but making sure that there's this phenomenal contrast between colors and between kind. But yeah, I definitely think that these little bits at the end is something just needs just a tiny bit of work. Alright, next up we've got some more from Bowhammer, and I best be checking this all the time, because I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to feel really bad if I have been missing out on some of these people. Oh no! But I guess I haven't been as consistently on as I have been in the past. Alright, so some more of his stuff, and I tell you what, he just does absolutely phenomenal work with the cabins of things. And I think that this is looking really nice. You know, you've got this great contrast of kind between the canvas and that of the tank itself. I think tank would be the best way to call this sort of mech thing. And, you know, that great contrast between the mech tank and the missiles. That is absolutely beautiful. You know, the way that it's got the treads pulled up, that sort of thing. But yeah, there's not much more I can say about this one. You know, beautiful, beautiful use of you know, contrast here with the decals. Beautiful, beautiful work with the decals. But yeah, oh yes, beautiful, beautiful work, beautiful freehand. It's done in that very sort of Comic Sans, generic sort of American writing style from back in the day. So I think that that looks really good as well. But yeah, just, oh, and look at this. I do believe this must be the German version of. And take a look at those visors. They look absolutely beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Just gorgeous. And once again, the sandbags up there, you know, it very much brings this sort of realist feel into a very sci-fi concept. And I think that that is looking just gorgeous. Not only that, but look at the way that he brings in a contrast of kind with the ammo belts. Just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Just beautiful. Oh, I think that, yeah, it is looking absolutely gorgeous. And here is the one that got him the community button for the week. But once again, it's that freehand, ladies and gentlemen. That freehand is absolutely gorgeous. Just gorgeous. And, you know, beautiful basing, once again, you know, taking a look at all of these guys, just beautiful basing. You know, it's got this great realist feel, and it brings these guys back into a sort of much more war aesthetic, not too sci-fi. And, oh, of course, we have some Nazi zombies. You know, what a sci-fi, you know, World War II concept would be complete without Nazi zombies. But yeah, some very entertaining guys right there. But yeah, take a look at the level of detail, especially for the size of these models. Look at the flames that are on that bottle right there. Just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Yeah, just so much effort has gone into these models. You can see it. You know, the way that he's put all of this effort into these things. You know, the way that he's, you know, strap these logs to the tank like they used to do. Just a phenomenal amount of effort, my man. A phenomenal amount of effort. As for critique, I really can't see anything off the top of my head. So I do find that a bit unfortunate, because I think that, you know, I want people to improve, but I can't see anything that I would want to improve with these. Alright, so next up we've got Dark Venom, who's been working on something that truly puts Games Workshop models to shame with its level of exaggeration. Take a look at that muscle work, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely ridiculous. So I think that this guy will come up really nicely, but I think that is somewhat ridiculous, even more so than some GW models. So say what you will, but when GW is looking tame, I think there's a chance that perhaps the sculptors have gone a little over the top. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, it is time for you guys to give me a hard time. So I'm gonna put on some music, and you guys can critique me on this one. So let me put on some music, and I will have a bit of a break while you guys give me a hard time, and then I will comment on your comments. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm back. So, let's see what you've had to say. So, Calidors2 says, oh, the eye is just scary. Looks very eye to me from Andre77. Is that a word? Soap Dodger, I like the skin and the eyes, but I think the bone needs some work. Possibly lighter to give more contrast. I assume that you're talking about it's this bit more here, this bit here, rather than that bone, the arm bits of bone. So Calidors2 says, I is a word now. Andre77 says, nice detail work on the irises. Andre77 says, is that a gold on the irises, on the eyes, base, or fading from a red to a yellow white? So the eyes have, so they're retributed gold as a base, and then there's a couple of different golds painted towards the center, and then I painted black, then I painted steel within the middle. I do believe it was actually a silver, not a steel, and then, you know, black within that to try and clean that up a bit. Oh, depending on, but yeah, I think that I could have done a bit better on this guy right here, but you know, such is life. But yeah, so I'll just ask, with the bone, did you mean more this, or did you mean the things, or something else? And hopefully we'll get the answer. And while we're still here, David says, If you want a Hercules, that fits the bill. Alright, so Andre77 says more Alien. Alright, Dave Hawks. That's one Grizzly Beholder thing. Thank you very much, man. Alright, so next up we have a Youngblood entry. So, my soon-to-be 7-year-old niece painted this up, I swear, during the holidays. Well, you know, she's doing pretty well as far as control is going for it. So, I think this bit right here where she's got, you know, that nice fade in and around the hair, I think that's looking pretty darn good. I think that she's getting some pretty good control, you know, with the sword. Obviously, she needs to put on more coats, but that's kids. They're in a bit of a rush. They want to get things done as much as possible. And I think overall she's done pretty good. And Soap Dodger just says, yeah, the top carapace is what they were talking about, not the bone in of itself, not the arms, I should say, or whatever these extensions are called. Alright, and he's put some more work in on the Dark Elder, and we can see that's coming along nicely. You know, put a bit more work into the blue, done some edging, you know, given them a bit more traditional Craftworld Elder bone weapon appearance, which I think is an interesting look. I also find it interesting the purple to contrast against the blue, but I do think you want to intensify that yellow within the eyes. Alright, and his first Goliath is all finished up. So I think that you want to bring up that skin a bit lighter if you want to match it with this yellow and blue right here, because I think at the moment it just looks a little off. I do like the way that you've done up the face, you know, with the blue eyes. I think that looks interesting, but other than that, yeah. So yeah, Davis says the yellow splinter rifle is coming up really nicely. I'd put it more along the bone. I guess it is yellow in that way, but I guess the way I was looking at it is it was more a Craftworld sort of thing. So I think he's come together nicely. However, I do think that this base needs work. You need to put a bit more on the base, of course. You know, I think not just a wash, but give some different elements to the base. Paint up one of these plates in different colors, that sort of thing. I think that's pretty important to sort of giving the idea of where they are. I think giving a bit more definition to some of these grenades, that sort of thing would help bring this guy together a bit more. But overall, I think that he's looking pretty good. I think that this Escher lady needs, you know, a bit of a wash over, needs a bit more work. But I think that the color scheme is working really well. But I do definitely think that she wants a wash or two over her. I do, however, like the way that you're doing the layering right there. I think that that's coming together quite nicely. Alright, next up we've got Richard Builds, and Richard certainly has been building. He's been going hard, putting together his own little lizard man area, or should I say Seraphon now, and it's certainly coming along, ladies and gentlemen. I will tell you that much. And yeah, it has certainly come a long way from where he started. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. I love that checker mark within that. That looks just gorgeous. And it very much does look that sort of Aztec slash Native American theme to it. Yeah, it's looking just beautiful. Alright. Next up, we've got Martin45, and apparently this isn't done. This is just a work in progress of the man, the myth, the legend, Mortarion. And wow, just wow. That's looking just absolutely beautiful, man. Like, alright, first off, I love the way that you've done up the wings. I think that the blue's giving a great contrast there. I think that the mask has come together really nicely. I like this mark around here. I'm unsure whether it's a sort of, you know, gun color scheme or what's going on, but whatever it is, it's looking just beautiful. I cannot wait to see this model all done up, and it looks like we've got a decent base going on down there already. Obviously he needs to do his sword up yet, but I mean, judging by the rest of it, I'd say there's a chance. I'd say that there's a chance that it's going to come together quite nicely. Alright, next up we've got Febuary. Yeah, I'm just gonna shake my head and just know that I will never pronounce things correctly. And he's showing us some works in progress of his Nurgle guys, and I tell you what, they're looking pretty darn gorgeous. Oh, okay, so he actually manages to get all the way through them. So he's showing us from start to finish. So he says, "I've finally done with my death card from the Dark Imperium." And he showed these back on Hobby Night Live, and he wanted to share them with us. So I think that this guy's come together absolutely gorgeously. I'm going to copy this thing's image location and bring it up and see if we can get a bit more zoomed in on it. Oh wow, take a look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Just like that subtle difference between the colors is very, very nice. And though I'm usually not a fan of the cleaner bone look, see, I think when contrasted with the Death Guard colors in of themselves, I think that that still works because it gives that level of contrast once again. And we've got that slight pink there with the Nurgling, and that off green with the Herald of Nurgle up there. I think that the leathers come together well, but I think of everything here, I think that the leather is most probably the least impressive of everything, which is saying something, you know. I mean, like, everything else is looking just absolutely gorgeous here, and I love this basing, you know, this sort of Nurglish slime that's on the ground. I think that that looks great. But yeah, just absolutely gorgeous. Great color contrast with the blues against the reds, you know, and the way that he's done up this white is just absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, one of the other things that I like is how he's taking pictures of these guys all together on a table, you know, within the terrain which he's going to be fighting with. You know, I think that that's always phenomenal. I mean, it is a bit distracting with the chair in the background, but, you know, I think that he's put a phenomenal amount of effort into these guys. But, of course, I'm not just here to blow smoke. I do think that, speaking of smoke, that is the one thing that I think they could do with a bit of improvement on these guys. You know, the smoke that's coming from the sensors and coming out of the heraldry, I think that that is definitely the thing that needs a bit of work here. Even this one right here within the green color, I think that that needs a bit of work. As for anything else that I think that could be improved, I don't really think so. I think that his work with white is absolutely phenomenal. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is an interactive show, and if you've got something to say, please say it, and I will share it with the group. Hopefully, we will get some more comments rather than just our usual crowd, because I do see that there's more people watching, but some people don't have YouTube accounts, as they have told me. And we've got some more with we've got some more pictures from him. So thank you very much for giving us a wide variety of shots. But yeah, this is looking particularly interesting here. But you know, there is one thing that I have to say that just threw me off. When I looked at it, I thought, wow, you know, Coke Zero, you know, just, I'm not sure that that's really something that we can tolerate on this show right here. Coke Zero, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that can keep up here. But I think that the models are all right. But the Coke Zero, it's got to go. That's definitely the first thing that's got to change. I mean, if you want to improve your models, of course. So I think these guys are looking pretty darn good. As for what could be improved, I'd say just always use that white bone technique that you used on the captain here, because whatever that technique is, it looks great. Just have that on these, that sort of thing. But yeah. So Davith is supporting the man with a comment of damn better than Diet Coke. But see, you know, just looking for, you know, Coke in of itself, it's quite a sin, gentlemen, quite a sin. You know, we don't do Coke here. You know, it's not something that proper gentlemen do. You know what I'm saying? No Coke for you guys. Just no Coke. Alright, so next up we have Mage, and he's showing us these guys fully done up. So hopefully I'll be able to copy the image location of one of these particular models, and I'll be able to take a look at a close-up. But more likely than not, we will be stuck in Imgur. And, oh, no, that's in, so we've got a decent close-up on these guys. Alright, so what I want to say is, like, this flag is definitely the standout for all of these guys. Just, I think the way that he's layered it, just looks absolutely gorgeous. But I do think that the clashing color scheme with these guys has really come together. That very intense purple against this intense blue looks great, especially when contrasted with these, you know, smatterings of red or red blood on the blades, and of, you know, these sort of rusted looking swords, and this great brilliant bronze gold. I think all of that looks great. Actually liking the basing, very minimalistic, but we've got our three elements there. You know, we've got the little scratchy pebbles, we've got the base sand, and of course we've got, you know, a tuft of grass. All of that's looking great. But take a look at the way that he's done up some of their hair. Just this grey hair here, just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Just beautiful. Just little things like that really bring it all together. I do think that he's put in a phenomenal amount of effort. Like, you can see here the way that he's done up the edging on all of that. That's really come together. But, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not just here to blow smoke, so I am going to be looking for something to improve. So I'm really loving the way those cloaks have come together on the back. But I do think that on the front, they haven't come up as much. Not having a difference between the front and the back, I think, while it does save time, I don't think that it improves the miniature overall. Maybe having a sort of bone color or sort of flesh color underneath would really help with contrast. You know, rather than having this one solid bit of blue. So when you've got that flapping, like for example on this right here and around there, you know, when you've got it coming back, you've got that level of contrast right there. I think that would very much help these models in particular. Alright, next up we've got some more from Brain Fowler, and he's showing off some of his old stuff that he showed off before, and I tell you what, you know, it's a very, very interesting color scheme, but I do remember him showing these guys off before, the old ones, and thank you very much for doing that, because the thing is, I think that it's great to see this level of interaction here. I think that it's really important for people to have those responses, have that back and forth, and that's why I wanted to make this show in of itself interactive, because I didn't want it to be so monochromatic, so one way, because interaction, I think, is some of the most important things for getting some proper feedback. But yeah, so next up we've got Richard Builds, and he's finished off his terrain here, and it's looking absolutely beautiful, and I do like that he's incorporated the model in of itself. But of course I am going to have to give one bit of critique, which is, where is just your plain background, man? Just like in a live box, in something, my man. I know that you usually take it out in the daylight, but just something! Something! Why do you make it difficult to look at your things? But it seems like the people like them. But yeah, I think that of them, this one is definitely the one that I like the most. Just, you know, these big, long, stringy bits of plant life right there, you know, struggling to survive. The way that you brought it all together, I think it looks just absolutely lovely. And I absolutely love that you've been showing off what you've been doing up, because I think, once again, ladies and gentlemen, works in progress are just so important. And I hope that somewhere in amongst all of these citation needed within all of this, that, you know, you could find a place in your heart for the WAYPN Weekly. Hopefully. But yeah, these guys certainly are coming along, my man, and I think that it's coming together really, really well. And I'm very much liking this new look that you've got going with this particular guy here. You know, it's very colourful, very intense, and I'm really going to look forward to seeing him fully done up. And I really like that you've shown the inspirations of where you've gotten everything done. And speaking of works in progress, ladies and gentlemen, I have been progressing along myself with the bird, as I call it, the bird, because it doesn't very much seem like a phoenix. And if you've got any comments, I will of course read them out, but as it's not fully done up, I'm not going to lie over it. Alright, Calidors2 says, the Saurus is looking amazing. I like seeing his stuff, for sure. Richard Build's stuff is amazing. I really enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing more of it. I do, however, think that these teeth are looking very white at the moment. Very pristine. They've got great dental there over in the Seraphon lands. Calidors2 says in the forums, those hands on the phoenix are still disturbing. I do my best. Sevol says, looks good. I'm still afraid of my airbrush, but someday I will finally get my my hand around it. I hope you do, man, because when it comes to those sorts of things, you know, you just got to dive in. You just have to dive in. There's no way around it. And Dave Hawk says, is that a Kingdom Death Mini? It looks utterly terrifying. Love the colours though. Thank you very much, my man. And Martin45 says, nothing to me at all, and it doesn't hurt. I'm not hurt by the lack of comment. I just want to know why you do that to me. And we've got Brushstroke's absolutely phenomenal Facebook guide on how to make trees, and it is well worth the read. Alright, so our Steve showing up yet more of why he, like me, is a bit of a mental patient. But he is a bit more than myself with the amount of work that he has put into this. Just a phenomenal amount of work, and he is still not done, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully we will see it all done up soon enough. Alright, Mage has a lot of feedback, and he says, I love the psychedelic acid trip turkey. Thank you very much, Mage. And next up, we've got Doug the Fog working on some of his Saga minis, and I tell you what, I am really liking, you know, the angry gnome archer. That's all I can think of him with the way that that hat is right there. You know, it is just and Andre, you have to reference what you're saying when you say these Z nice. These Z. Why does everything start with Z? I do not understand. But yeah, the little gnome hat and the beard. I tell you what, I don't know if that's the look they're going for, but he definitely looks like a large gnome. You know, a miniature large gnome, unlike the giant miniature space hamster. But yeah, so the other thing is, I think that he's doing some great work with his eyes. He's really trying to put in an effort with his eyes. I do like the way that he's done up the bases. Once again, I'm not a big fan of Doug the Fog's grass, but you know, I think that's a horse that I've beat well enough. So I think these guys are looking pretty nice. I really like the chainmail. My Mech Warrior problem when I want to have a comment, I have to tip a type, Z? Okay, I'm just going to nod my head. But yeah, take a look at the way that he's put in that eye in there. I think that he's really been putting a phenomenal amount of effort into his eye work there. So, you know, you've really got to give him points on that. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. But see, I really wish that more of the miniatures were like this. I think that this old style doesn't look that great. Hey, we've got Doug here. Angry gnomes aplenty. New static grass in the post. Oh, I'm going to have to see this. Is this the new static grass? Where is the static grass? Why am I so excited over static grass? You'll have to tell me. You'll have to tell me, Doug, which is the new static grass. But yeah, I definitely think that, you know, a phenomenal amount of effort has gone into the eyes, so you've got to give him credit where credit is due. I'm very much liking the chainmail with that great contrast of kind. You know, the way that the leather and the regular clothes contrast against steel, I think that that looks great. I do think that this Berserker looks a bit over the top. Doug informs me that the grass is being delivered. So I know someone out there is listening. So I got something in my eyes, guys. I got something in my eyes. Alright, so enough over the topness from me. But yeah, speaking of over the top, it does look a little bit over the top, but I think that's more just because of the models in of themselves being quite muted. So, you know, what looks like very muted for 40k will look quite over the top for here. I tell you what, there's a lot of nice little details, like the way these added the lip within the beard. You know, like that level of effort doesn't need to be gone to with some of these guys. I do, however, think that the fur needs a bit more work done here. I think that it looks like a bit of a grey mess there. But, you know, such is life. And maybe a bit more sprucing up with the hair. But I think that there's a chance that the blood was the primary focus of this Berserk guy right here. I do like the dripping on the chainmail. I think that that looks good. You know, not over the top. So I think that looks really nice. But yeah, so we've got some great models from Doug the Bug. And I think that he's been putting a phenomenal amount of work into these guys. So, tip of the metaphorical hat with the way that he's been doing up that great contrast of kind. Alright, next up we have Panzer Kaput, and Panzer Kaput is putting up something relatively normal. So that's a change in of itself, and I'm going to make sure that I've been thumbsing everyone up. So these are Gangs of Rome. I tell you what, he's been doing some phenomenal work with this cloak right here. It looks great. Same with the white, but the patterning in of itself, I think, has really let him down. I think that this patterning is not helping his cause. But of course, I do believe that that's something that he's starting out with. You know, that's something that he's not used to doing. So, you know, more power to you. Keep at it, man, and you will get better at it. I think that the skin's coming together well, except on the knee joint here. I don't know what's going on. Alright, Soap Dodger, he's got an attack of the Hangry Wife, and he will catch up with us later. But yeah, the patterns within here don't really look that clean, especially when you compare it to the smoothness of the rest of what's done up and of the shield in of itself. I think the shield patterns is looking quite nice, and the cloak is looking quite nice, and of course we've got some lovely basing done up, you know. And see, I think when it comes to this sort of basing, this is some of the stuff that you can do. But even when you were just doing, say, cobblestone basing like that, just one bit of grass coming up, it doesn't need to be completely overgrown, but just that little extra touch can really bring things up. Alright, next up we've got Sheldon 9, and he's been doing some absolutely phenomenal stuff with his dropship commander work, and oh, they're looking just gorgeous. I love this glow effect with all of these ships. So we'll see you later, Doug. So just we'll see some more phenomenal work with this, hopefully a bit later on. I also love this glow from the cannons in of themselves. I think that looks just absolutely phenomenal, and I am loving the color scheme overall with these you know, greys, reds and blues. Of course we got the greens on these, but the primary color scheme is the blue glow of the engine and the red of the actual ships. It very much reminds me of the N7 pattern armor and armaments from the Mass Effect franchise. Especially this bit right here and this bit right here. It does very much remind me of Mass Effect, the way that it's done up. But I really like the way that he's done up different sorts of energies coming from different sorts of areas. Like, for example, engines are always blue, whereas, you know, there are other things which might have, say, for example, you know, the green glow or the orange of the guns. Just little things like that which really help bring these things to life. And I think, like, seeing all of these things together, they've got brilliant uniformity, yet each of them have little bits of difference. And I think that looks absolutely amazing. And I'm really loving the map which he's taking a photo of, which they are on. So they're obviously in high orbit over, you know, a continent, you know, one which has a whole lot of people on it, and they're trying to defend this planet, or perhaps attack this planet. I think that looks just great. But yeah, these Shatari, I do believe, is the name of the team. the way that they've got this great organic feel to their ships. They look absolutely phenomenal, and this one in particular, the way that that gold bends into the orange, just beautiful. And when it comes to this, I'm unsure as to what I can actually say to critique these. Like, one, I think that they look really good, right? But two, I'm unsure as to what the form and function of each part of these things are. I will say that these little organic bumps here are looking a bit plain, but maybe that is by design, maybe not. I've got no idea one way or the other. So they could be done up a bit, I guess. When it comes to these, I think the only next step really for Sheldon is doing weathering, and I'm not sure that that's an area that he wants to step into, and I could understand why. But yeah, other than that, I think that these are all looking absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, and Calidors 2 said, I didn't notice the mat underneath. But you're right. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for you to give me a hard time. So, these guys haven't gotten much more work than what they have, but I'll get you to judge them. Weathering in space, yeah, there's, what's it called? Micro dust in space, which is one of the things that people believe that is going to hold us back from actually exploring space, because since we can't detect things outside of our outside of our solar system, because we don't have the light and the heat to reflect off things, basically if there's debris out in the cold of space, it could completely rip our ships apart without us ever knowing about it. But yeah, that's all just theory. So it's time once again for you guys to give me a hard time. This is an aberration. I'm not quite sure what this one's called from Massive Darkness, but it is some sort of fleshy monstrosity, and you know, I did my darndest with it to bring it to life in the way that I thought it might be brought to life. And of course, a fairly classic troll look. And I tried to paint. Well, I put a bit more work into this guy, but I tried to paint this guy up just as quick as I could, because that's like, I didn't think that I'd have a lot of time to do painting. So what do you think, guys, of these two? And of course I will give feedback on your feedback. Alright, so Andre says, I heard that we are back to 0 time space travel. I don't know what that means. Alright, next up we've got some more from Janice. And he's just doing some more works in progress with his Roman legionaries. Alright, and now for something completely different. And it looks like he's doing up some old GW models, question mark? I do see some GW parts, but maybe these are not GW models. No, the base is not done, my man. No. Like I said, the bases are actually going to take quite a bit of work to do, and I'm most probably going to do all of the bases in batches because they take so much effort to do. Because if you've seen the lava bases, and the tutorial I've done on them, they actually take a lot of work. But yeah, so no, Calidors 2, I'm sorry. I have betrayed you all. There is no basing done. I just tried to get some painting done while the temperature was not in the high 40s. So apparently these are old GW models. And some other not so GW models. Next up, we've got Davitt's stuff. He's doing some work on his Space Wolves, and he's calling these done. So he's obviously trolling me with these bases. Oh, good Lord, ladies and gentlemen. Why do these people do this to me? But yeah, so I think that they're looking pretty darn good with all of the base colors. I do believe we get to see them get some transfers a little later on, but I do think that I can judge these guys based off their paint job pretty much now. But I do believe we'll see the transfers a little later on. Yes, here we go. Nope, that was something completely different. All right, but yeah, so I think that's looking pretty nice. Fairly clean. I do think the wash brings it down a little too much. I most probably would have gone another layer over, like, for example, especially this jump pack here, and you can see some pooling in some of those. I think with these guys right here it looks fine, but like it very much depends on the thing. I do think that the power sword right here is just a tiny bit too shiny with that one, but overall I think they're looking pretty darn good. I really don't know how to do the frost claws. I've seen like a million different designs with how to do the frost claws, so I'm not going to comment on any of the sort of frost tone. I think like it's pretty much find what you like to do and then just continually do that forever. I do, however, think that this guy's face could be touched up a little, especially for a chaplain. You really want to go that extra mile. I do like the skull, however. I think that it's come up nicely. But yeah, I do think there's a bit more pooling on these jetpacks. I think that needs to be touched up just a tad. And of course, his base. Look at that. But yeah. Actually, the face is looking a little better in here, but I think you've got to go in and do the eyes. Or, you know, either that or just do something about the eye area, because as it stands, I don't think you can leave it as is. I think it really needs that extra level of effort. Alright, and next up we have, I do believe this is some sort of captain or hero of some kind. Yeah, so Calidors 2 says the frost weapons look good. Yeah, like I said, I've seen a million different ways of those things being done, so I'm not going to say in the negative or the positive of one way or the other, because I just think that it's pick one and keep going. However, once again, I think that the pooling has really affected this model. Like, right here, that needs to be fixed up, in my opinion. And I do think that the hair could be brought up, especially if you're going to have hair as wild as that. You really want to pull it up just a massive amount, because if it's going to be crazy, you really want to go the whole 9 yards with it. Yeah, see, I think that the frost effect looks really, really nice on this axe. You know, when you've got the different layers within it, so you've got the, you know, really light blue, and then you've got the runes, and then you've got, you know, that nice little effect there, you know, where it's like sort of dry brush edging within the middle of it. I think that looks really nice altogether. But yeah, I think overall they're looking pretty darn good. Next up, we've got Calidorus 2, and apparently he has done up a little cat model for his mate's girlfriend, and I think that it's come together really nicely. It does seem as if this guy is teeny tiny, just absolutely miniature. It's a miniature. But yeah, great work with the edging. You know, just I think all of those things, all you can really do is more or less outline the cat. There's not a whole lot of work you can do, because as you can see, that's his fingers down there, so that's about half the size of a thumbnail, I'd say. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. Purple eyes. Calidorus 2 says purple eyes. In regards to, I think that's this model right here. Done up the eyes in purple. It's looking pretty purple to me. But overall, but yeah, I think that it's a pretty decent looking model, man. So, you know, don't give yourself too much of a hard time, especially considering the size of it. So, I really do love some of the comments throughout. So, and to give myself a break from the grim darkness of the far future, space monkeys. You know, said in that very sort of space dandy-esque way. In space! So, very nicely done, David. Very nicely done. So hopefully we will see a bit more paint on these guys next week. But it is always phenomenal to see how people do up their models. I really love seeing it. I really do think that it gives an idea that, you know, nothing starts finished and that people are always working on their stuff. They don't just sort of smash it out because they're super talented. They put work in. Yeah, so Calidorus 2 said, purple eyes, a strange request, something like that, something very small. Yes, it does look like it was a bit of a pain. Next up, we've got Filthy, and he's doing up one of his first Infinity models, and I think that it's come together really well. So, there's a lot to really like about it. Taking a look at the way that he's done that graded edging, that looks just beautiful. The off-white looks absolutely gorgeous. And I think that the sword looks really, really nice. I don't think the hair looks as good from this angle, nor the eyes. But I do think that the hair looks really, really good on this side. I think that the sword and the gradient, the graded edging looks absolutely beautiful. But if I was him, I most probably would put a bit more work into the base that he's done up for himself, because he's done up a cynic base. So this is obviously corkboard that he's built up, right, and he's tried to give it a straight edge. I'd say if you want to give it that straight edge, maybe hit it with some PVA and then sand it back and then paint over it, so you've got that nice smoothness, so you can sort of hide the fact what you've done. Yeah, just some things like that I think would really help this model. I think the skins come together all right, but not absolutely phenomenally. But yeah, I think overall it's looking pretty darn good. And David says, you have no idea how hard I had to resist the urge to make Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys references. But in regards to this model, he says that Patrocles, I do believe is how you say that, is just stunning. Such clean off-white, and the armor, yes. The off-white is very, very clean. Just a phenomenal amount of work. Next up, we've got Janice and his work on, I'm not too sure what, but yeah, it looks to be some sort of Stone Age person, I think. I'm not sure. And he's saying just painting something not Roman. I don't actually think that the model looks that great. He's put in a lot of work into the skin tone, and I think into the loincloth there. I think he's put a lot of work into that. But I tell you what, that basing just looks absolutely gorgeous. You've got to love that basing, ladies and gentlemen. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for you to give me a hard time. So I'm gonna put some music on and let you guys give me a bit of a hard time, and then after that I will respond to your feedback. Alright, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And I've returned, ladies and gentlemen. Not as long a break as last time. Alright. Yeah, so the helmet was done in gold first and then the blue and then a wash over that. Yeah, I think that it's obvious that some of the paints come through on some of it. I think it could have been done a bit better. Andre77 looks nice. The transition from snake on the staff looks not to work. The blow on the crown may need some details. Okay, I'm gonna hard time needed. I've always liked that particular model and it looks great. I like the porcelain white mask that you've used for the desk mask and the covering for the chest. Yeah, the porcelain breastplate. I was wondering the skin under the mask, could that be done with extra decaying flesh? I think that it was meant to be just a full-on skull, well, from what I could see from the art. Doug says, "Yummy mummy." Nice work, Squire. Warm gold and cold royal blue works well. Caladors too. I like that gold comes it. I like that the gold comes through a bit. Z blue. But yeah, so I hope that it came together all right. Next up, we've got Laughing Boy, and last two models done, and the Walsung collection is done, and he really likes it. And I mean, with that level of effort, you would want to like it. You would not want to hate your work after putting that level of effort into all of it. Alright, so I think, you know, once again, brilliant basing, right? This is how you do, you know, a ruined city of that age, right? You really give it some character to it, and you can see how it's not just the resin base that he's done, he's also added his own little bits and pieces to it, you know, the way that he's added the sand in there, that sort of thing. I do, however, think this hat needs a band colour, you know, because I think that it looks a bit too plain that way. I do think that he's done good work with the pants, but I do think that the shirts are done up a little bit too intensely with the edging. Like when you see this bit here, it doesn't quite make as much sense as, say, up here. I do think that the skin works come together nicely, but not phenomenally. I think that he's done really well to put all of it together, but honestly, I think that there's a chance that he might have been rushing the last two models just to have it all done. I do like the yellow contrasting against the blue with the little lady with the slingshot. I think that she's looking pretty darn nice though. I do like the shiny gears on her though. I think that that's come together really nicely, and the frilliness of the dress. But yeah, and there they all are together. But yeah, I really like the elven bobbies. That is really nice. But it is absolutely lovely, ladies and gentlemen, seeing all of this work come together, seeing just how much work he's put into this, and seeing all of it come together, and knowing, you know, he's worked his way through all of that and he's shared that journey with us. And see, that to me is one of the big things, because you see individual pieces by people and you don't get an idea of just how much effort's gone into certain things, why people are doing certain things. And when you see a thing like this, you get a great feel for it. The same thing with Sheldon's piece, where he showed off those whole armies, or I should say fleets in his case. You get this great feeling of accomplishment with how much he's done. And so I want to say big congrats to both Sheldon and Laughing Boy with how much effort you put in and the end result. So congrats on that. Next up, we've got Richard building some more things, would you believe? And yeah, he's been putting some phenomenal levels of effort into these things. And yeah, I think that he's really going hard on these guys, and I really love seeing it. And I also love seeing this, you know, seeing people having fun outside of painting, because that is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. It is about having some fun. So, we're almost to the end, ladies and gentlemen, but not quite yet. Next up, we've got Evil Stu, who cannot make it due to the fact that he, like me, is Australian, but does not have, you know, quite the same level or tolerance for a lack of sleep. And so he is off in the land of Nod. So we have his absolutely phenomenal commandos here. I really like these models, and I think that he's done really well with these guys. I think that the color scheme that he's gone with, the brown and the black as well as the red visors, looks very sort of future realism. I do, however, think that the guns being the exact same color as the rest of the models, while it may be, you know, realistic, what, once again, we are looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is not realism but verisimilitude. So I would try and make these weapons a different color to try and give that extra level of difference of contrast of kind. But I'm absolutely loving the way that he's done up these bases. I do think, however, he could just lick his thumb and run his hand around the rim of the bases with these to just really try and bring these up to the same level, because I think when they look like this, they look just gorgeous, but not as much when they're like this. But yeah, I'm really loving these. I do believe they're called Republic Commandos. Yeah. So I think that they look just absolutely phenomenal, just phenomenal. And like, it's obvious that he's put some real effort into these guys. Like, for example, that really subtle lighting effect right there from the laser. I think that that looks great. You know, he's put a phenomenal level of effort into these guys. So, you know, just before you take those photos, ladies and gentlemen, and I mean, I can't say that I'm any better, because, you know, you saw it with my model. It obviously needed just a few tiny touch-ups before I put it down, but I just wanted to be done. I just wanted to be done. So, you know, a bit of hypocrisy, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. But yeah, just absolutely beautiful work. I love these models and I love what he's done with them. But I do think that the guns need to have a bit more work done on them so that they've got a difference of kind from that of the model themselves. And he's been doing some work on these Pox walkers. And he's just asking for a bit of feedback. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have some feedback on these guys, do feel free. It's obvious that he's trying to absolutely smash through these guys with the way that he's using washes and such to just try and get these guys done really quickly. You know, white base and then washes over the top seems to be the way that he's going with these. But one of the things that I would recommend is putting the yellow shade over some of these horns, maybe not over them completely, and doing one wash of sepia over that, and then a brown wash at the halfway point, and try and fade it out so that, you know, you've got this nice looking horn effect. But other than that, that's as much feedback as I can give for, I do believe, how to make those the way, you know, a really quick way of making them up, at least. And next up, we've, I think, okay, we've got one from Brennan, or Ben, who is too sexy, too furious to be on this thread, that's for sure. And he's been going hard with some of these Conan minis. But I'm going to give a quick refresh and see if we've got some more stuff after that. And in the meantime, we'll have a quick look at what Mage has done up once again. And, you know, they do look really nice. I do really like some of that edging, ladies and gentlemen. It's come together really quite nicely. So, ladies and gentlemen, if any of you have anything else to say, we will take a look, ladies and gentlemen, and we will make our way. And so we've got one last thing from Andre, and I think after that, that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. After the Andre thing, I do believe. I saw that. Oh no, more from Doug the Fug. And then that will be the week. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so in around the same time frame, which is good. It's very good. Apparently, I'm pacing myself correctly. Alright, so I think that the skin work is looking pretty darn good with this. I think that he's put in a phenomenal amount of effort to this Conan model right here. Do, however, think that the hair needs a bit more work, and obviously we need to have a base on this. Throwing a wash over the gold and the sword itself, I think, will really help bring it up quite a bit, as well as just a plain old wash over the face will really help bring up the features quite a bit. Because it's obvious that he's put a bit of work into the model itself. So I think just give that little extra bit of effort. I think mostly just a wash in critical areas will really help bring it up, because I think, like, for the most part with the skin work, you've done really, really well. You know, defining those muscles, that sort of thing, and that's got to be the key focus for a Conan model. I think that the way that you've done the African or black skin here, I think looks really good. I do like the gold against the blue. I think that that looks very, very nice. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about this bloke here. I think pretty much the same as Conan. I could use a bit of a wash on the face, and that is about it. Next up, we've got Andre77, and he's been working on more of his Dune stuff by the looks of things. Though you could tell me different, Andre77, this is Dune, correct? I do believe that is Dune. The Castle Arkane. I have no idea how to pronounce these things. But yeah, this came up not that long ago. So I think that the way that you've given a nice contrast between the actual rock base and this stone entrance looks really good. I do think that you want a bit more definition within the sand here. You know, give some of that waves that you've got within the actual board that you've done up. I think that would be a good thing, you know, give that a wave there sort of thing, like you've got with that. As for the rest of it, I think it looks pretty good. You know, I like the worn steel doors, you know, how you've got that sort of black iron look, and just like with the black iron look, the more exposed iron comes through. I think all of that looks good. I don't think that there's a lot that I can say one way or the other about this. Did you make it yourself, or did you buy a kit? So hopefully we'll get an answer from that. And next up, we've got Dude the Frog working on some more Vikings, less gnomes for his saga. And we see some great work with these very plain sort of clothes. See, that's one of the problems that I have with historicals overall. A lot of the times, like, the clothes look very, very plain. His starts mold, apparently, for this one. But yeah, I do think that he's really given a great level of effort to make sure that there is a great level of contrast between the helmets and that of the normal clothes, you know, making them quite metallic, quite shiny, to give those contrasts of kind, which I think is really important. And also take a look at the way that he's done up the leather right here. You know, that makes for a particularly intense level of contrast of kind with that of the actual clothes. So you take a look at the leather here, right? It's very sort of intense, very sort of cracked looking right here. It's more a hide looking thing. Just little things like that can really help bring a model up or down, but I try and bring that basing all the way to the edge, because otherwise it looks a little off. But that's pretty much all I've got to say with these guys. You know, pretty, you know, standard the Frog painting for us. But yeah, I think that they are looking pretty nice. I think that he's put in a nice level of effort. I always like the level of effort that Doug puts into his bases, despite the grass. And he's been putting some hard yards in getting eyes in there on some of them. But of course, I don't think that every saga model is great for actually having eyes. So, you know, more power to you for actually doing eyes. And as we all know, eyes are a bit of a pain in of themselves. So yeah, I do however think, like, for example, these cords right here could be done up in a different colour just to give a bit of a contrast of kind, and I do think that you could bring up this cloak a bit. But other than that, I think that it's looking pretty darn good. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's been your 2 hours of the WAYPN Weekly. I did have plans, ladies and gentlemen, to have a bit of a meeting after this to share something with you guys, but I may still yet send a personal message to you guys, but I am absolutely devastated, quite tired, so I think I may retire for the evening, and perhaps tomorrow night slash day for you guys, depending on how you guys are going, I just may try and share something with all of you from the game that I have been working on. So if you guys have Skype, hopefully you can show us, you can share some feedback with me as to how I'm going with it. But if you've got anything else to say, go ahead and say it, and I'll get back to you. But if not, I'm going to say, keep those brushes wet, and I will see you later. See ya! Doop 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 doop.